Hello people YouTube, how are you today? It's me Abby, and I have not filmed in 3 months. Last time I filmed was September 30th, and it is December 31st. Essentially today I'm going to be doing a get ready with me and explaining where the hell I've been the last 3 months. Just know you're in for a wild ride. I have a lot to talk about. The reason why I haven't been around. A little trigger warning that I am going to talk about death in both sense of losing several people during the last couple of months, and they both died under terrible circumstances. So if you don't want to hear about that, one of them does include suicide. Feel free to click out of this video, but essentially I'm gonna get ready and talk about what's happened, because doing my makeup always makes me feel happy, and I'm finally in a headspace where I'm okay to talk about it, kinda, and explain essentially what the hell has been going on. Because it's also not just that. It's been a wild ride the last couple of months, and why I decided to take a little break off YouTube. Because as you guys know, YouTube is a hobby for me, and I do like to do it. It keeps me busy. But with all the shit that's been happening the last, like I said, couple of months, I needed a little breather. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, I'm going to start from the beginning. Sorry if you hear any kind of noise in the background. My stepdad is currently working on a shelf for my mom as a little anniversary surprise, because yesterday was their anniversary, so he's building her like a whole new closet, so I can't control it, and also this was my one day off, so I took the advantage to just film. Okay, how this all started was back on the day, January 8th, the day I actually posted my last video. I posted that video like mid-afternoon. I hung out with my friend Sarah. You know Sarah. And when I went to hang out with it that day, we got dinner. We had a good time. And we were literally driving to this one place in our town where we can play laser tag, which is called Wild River. And we were literally, as we pulled in to the parking lot, this is where it all starts. Because we get a text from one of our friends. I'm not going to say who, because this is her family involved, but she's okay with talking about, like, I think, with me talking about it, because the fact that it's already done and over with, and she talked about it as well. Her little sister ended up committing suicide that night. And when we heard that, I broke down. I know this friend of mine I have known for years, and I've known her little sister since she was essentially like a little kid, like a toddler. I've known her since she was like 4, and she was 17 when this happened. Obviously, when we heard that, we decided, not to do it anymore, and she just drove me home. But during the entire car ride, I was, bawling like a baby, crying. I called my dad, crying, because, you never want to hear something like that. And as you guys know, this isn't my first time dealing with somebody who's committed suicide. The thing also is that the very next day, I still went back. I went to work. I thought if I went to work, I could take my mind off, what I essentially just found out that night. And it did not help. But yeah, I went to work, and my coworkers, here's the thing, my coworkers know me very well. And they just knew that something was up, because usually I'm happy, bubbly, cheery. But I couldn't be. I don't know why I didn't just call out of work that day. I really should have, because I was not okay that entire day. I cried multiple times. Literally cried multiple times. And luckily, one of my coworkers, I told her, because she is a friend of mine, and I told her exactly what happened. And she goes, if you need a break at all today, just tell me and I'll cover you, And I hate to say, I couldn't help but break down, especially with my job, because I've mentioned before, I'm security. I deal with like shit people, and I just like, my emotions were so bad that day that anybody who gave me like any attitude or just was generally rude to me, I couldn't handle it. Usually I can handle stuff, but I knew obviously I was going through a lot, but I could not handle it for the life of me. But yeah, anyways, when I was at work, I couldn't handle it. I still made it through my shift though. I worked 8 hours that day, and I wanted to go to work too that day because I just didn't want to hear my family like tell me I'm sorry, because it wasn't my loss. It was my friend's, It was her sister. But I knew the family, and her sister was like a friend to me. I was very close with the family. After that, I went home, but the thing is, right when I got off work, that's when her family announced that she had passed. And I literally was scrolling through my phone, and it popped up right as I was like walking to go clock out, and I fucking lost it. I started crying right then and there in front of all my coworkers, and some of my coworkers didn't know what happened yet. Like, they knew that I was like in a bad mood, but they didn't know. And that's when like I finally, like, my other coworker, she comforted me. She saw that I was crying. She just hugged me for like a couple minutes, and then I saw like my other coworkers like, what the hell is happening? And of course I told them afterwards, and I just left. I couldn't even, I don't like to cry in front of people. I really don't. I hate crying in front of people. It's my biggest thing. If I do it, I don't know, it bothers me. But after all that happened, I went home, and the next couple weeks were kind of fierce. This also happened a week before my birthday, because my birthday was the next weekend. And it just got to the point where I didn't even want to celebrate my birthday anymore. Because, how could you? And the thing is, we still did. My mom, but it was very small. We didn't really do much. My mom made my favorite soup, which was pozole. Me and my friends, we went to the fair, and that was it. And I had a good birthday. I had a decent birthday. But then a couple weeks went by, and of course where I work, it was getting busy because the holidays were coming up, The next couple weeks were like kind of stagnant until we heard news of when the funeral was going to be. Here's the thing, at my job, I had already taken too many days off from being sick, and also I asked for my birthday weekend off because I wanted one weekend to myself, essentially, And I had already asked for it prior to the whole incident. But yeah, essentially I asked for the days off, and here's the thing, my sister, I've mentioned this already, she was pregnant, and her baby shower, here's the thing, the funeral came first on November 6th, and then the next weekend after that was my sister's baby shower. So I went to go talk to one of my bosses about getting both days off, because first of which, I needed them. Because one was a family event that I wasn't going to miss, because I've missed too many of them from working at the job I work at, and it's caused a bunch of other problems that I'm not going to say. This person got mad at me and essentially said, I don't do schedules until the week of, so I don't even know why you're asking me. And when this person did say to me, I'm not going to lie, I lost it and I cried. Because I'm like, I'm trying to ask you to make sure I can get days off for essentially a child's funeral and then my sister's event, because I had to be there, But yeah, I still ended up getting the days off for it, obviously, but essentially I had to fight for it. But either way, I got it off. But yeah, I ended up going to the funeral, or what they called it, the celebration of life, because, you don't ever want to think about it like that. And it was a fucking hard day. Here's the thing, after the funeral and after my sister's baby shower, things were okay for a minute. That was until Thanksgiving came. Thanksgiving was also my mom's birthday, so her and my stepdad decided to go out of town, so they had like a trip to themselves, essentially. And I was okay with that, because Thanksgiving Day itself was overall like, the beginning of it was good. Like, I woke up really happy, which was surprising because I had a day off, you know? I was able to sleep in and get ready, like, at a normal speed. Like, I didn't have to, like, rush to get ready for something for once. And then I got ready, I got dressed, and I decided to have Thanksgiving with my dad because he was the only person I was going to be able to have Thanksgiving with. And on Thanksgiving, we went to my aunt's house, and everything was going good so far. We were having a good time. Like, even my cousins and I, we came back here and I gave them a bunch of makeup because, you know, they wanted, not to get into it, but the products they had were, like, shit. So I gave them a bunch of old makeup I wasn't using anymore. You know, we were laughing. We were having a good time talking until my aunt told me that she was worried about my aunt. Her name is Luli. Her real name is Maria, but we call her Luli. And if you don't know this, me and my aunt Luli, we are very close. Everybody's always said that I am more her than I am any other person in my family. I act like her, essentially. I look like her. Everybody always thought she was my mom because me and my mom look nothing alike. So, you know, we were close. My aunt, not even joking, 10 minutes before told me about the situation that was going on with my other aunt, Luli, because she doesn't live here in Yuma. She lives in Kingman, and apparently, like, they had COVID, you know, and they weren't doing well. And her husband was not letting, like, us talk to her, essentially. It's hard to explain what's going on. But yeah, my aunt literally had barely told us, like, what would happen 10 minutes before we got the call that she had passed away. And she passed away under suspicious circumstances, which I am going to get into right now. But yeah, my aunt passed away, and essentially what happened was her and her husband were not doing okay mentally. You know, they were not good. And it's hard to say because I don't want to disrespect him, but there is fault on him, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm just beating around the bush now. I need to just say what happened. Essentially, when my aunt passed away, her husband refused to call the police and to get her help. And my aunt was essentially, the only person who was able to get a hold of them was my other aunt. And I'm sorry, this is still hard for me to talk about. But he essentially saw her, like, said that she wasn't eating or, like, drinking, and then she was eating and drinking. Like, the story just still doesn't make sense to me, if that like, you know. But then he said that she got naked and was laying on the floor, then got back on the bed, and then she was on the floor again. If you know my aunt who passed, she wouldn't do that. She's the kind of person who likes to wear layers upon layers of clothing. So when he said that, we were like, what the hell are you talking about? And he was being weird himself, and then he wasn't answering phone calls from us. My aunt just decided to call the police. My other aunt, sorry, I know I'm keeping out names for, obviously, for my privacy reason and for my family, but I am still telling the story because this is kind of how I'm coping, to be honest with you. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I have not been okay. I feel like a little more normal now, but things have still been hard. And I still have more to the story to tell. It's hard for me to tell, obviously. But they called the police, and they had police in Kingman, you know, go check on her. And when they found her, she was pronounced dead at the scene. And he said that she was doing fine that day, but we found out that she had already been dead for well over 8 hours. And he was just in the house with her. They opened an investigation, obviously, and 2 days later, he died. Like, our family was devastated. Obviously, we on Thanksgiving Day, we went fucking crazy. Like, my other aunt, that wasn't the aunt who called the police, she lost it. She was hysterical, losing it, and she still hasn't been the same, you know, obviously, because it was her sister. And we ended up going to my Nana's house, where we were there for several hours, just talking with police and stuff, like, all through this on the phone, my other aunt, and just going through it. And then here's the thing. After like, all that happened, trying to get this fucking story straight, I had to come home alone because there's nobody here. And I think it was both I wanted to be alone and I didn't want to be alone, because I just, I lost it. I came home and I cried all night. I couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just had that thought of her, because she was my aunt, and she was the aunt I was closest to. Like, me and her hadn't talked for a while because she lived in Kingman, but she literally called me a month before she passed to talk to me, just to see how I was doing. And my last words to her were, "I love you, goodbye," because I was at work and I couldn't talk too long. And that was the last thing I ever said to her. But yeah, I still went to work the next day because my sister had to go to work, because the aunt who was hysterical decided to call out, and my sister still had to go. And, we essentially still had to keep, life had to go on. So I ended up watching the baby, and, I tried to be okay. I was trying. But I still went to work also the next day. And, again, my coworkers, they know when I'm not myself. I can't hide things wrong. Luckily, I didn't cry at work. I think it's because I was more angry than anything. But I did tell some coworkers what happened, and they're just like, "Oh my god, this is just not your year, isn't it?" And I'm like, no. Like, they could just tell, like, I didn't want to talk to anybody. And the thing is, I wasn't, like, snappy, but I was just almost numb, if that made sense. Like, I was just like, I kind of, like, brazenly told it to one of my coworkers, and then when I realized I said it, I was just like, I cannot take that back, and now they know. Here's the thing, because we were in, like, we had made allegations against her husband, my uncle, here's the thing, her husband wanted to have my aunt cremated. My aunt did not want to be cremated. She's always wanted to be buried, And he didn't want an autopsy done. We wanted an autopsy done, and we were about to get ready, like, to fight for, this kind of stuff. And then 2 days later, when my uncle went down there to go get some, because we had talked to him briefly, and he said that we could come down there to essentially retrieve some of her stuff. But again, he was acting weird himself. So when my uncle, who went to go see him, he was unable to get into the house, which was weird, because all the cars were there, the dogs were barking, and my uncle called the police, essentially. He called the police, and when he did, they told him that he was allowed to break in if he needed to see what was going on, and to make himself known, And so he entered the house, and he's yelling for my aunt's husband, like, "Hey, I'm here, where are you, where are you?" And my uncle instantly noticed that there was a smell. Searching around, dogs barking, he finally went into one of the rooms and found him dead. And here's the thing, both him and my aunt died the exact same way. And they think that he died of a probable heart attack caused from, like, COVID and stuff. But we were just like, what the fuck? And I didn't find out until after I got done with work that day when he did die. And we were just like, what? Like, what is going on? What is going on? But, yeah, this is, obviously this is still hard for me to talk about because it hasn't been that long, but he passed, and his family took care of it because we weren't really on talking terms with them. I didn't really know him. I don't even call him my uncle. That's why I keep saying her husband. But yeah, that happened. And we were just in awe. But then we, obviously we have her body now. And we gave her a proper funeral, the funeral she wanted. It was hard. I cried like crazy. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Guys, I know I'm taking forever for this to get done, but it's so hard. It's so hard. But yeah, we gave her the funeral, and, I was trying to move on. And here's the thing. During that entire, that whole thing that was going on, I had a tooth, just to add, insult to injury with everything that's been going on. I had a tooth back here. I broke in high school. Got tackled in, football, and that tooth became a cavity, and then the cavity became a root canal. And the root canal got so infected that I was in constant pain during the entire time. Her funeral, I was just in pain. And here's the thing. I have a high pain tolerance, and I usually can handle stuff. Orajel wasn't doing anything, and this had to be the worst pain of my entire life. And I'm not even, remotely joking. I have been stabbed, I have been kicked, I have been punched. I've had the shit kicked out of me. That was the worst pain. And I was dealing with it for weeks straight. And then just recently, 3 weeks ago, it had gotten so infected that my face had swollen to all right here. I couldn't open my mouth. I couldn't open my mouth at all. My jaw would lock. And I was dealing with lockjaw for the 2 weeks until I finally went to the dentist and got it fixed. I was putting it off to the point where I couldn't put it off anymore, and my mom just made the appointment, and my dad paid for it, because the thing is, I couldn't afford to get my teeth fixed. When they told me the price initially, I'm like, I can't afford that, so it just scared me away. And then my dad finally paid for it, and that was my Christmas gift, was him fixing my teeth. And here's the thing, it's still not fixed yet because I only have a temporary crown on it right now, and I don't get the crown put on until January 12th. So I'm still dealing with some stuff. And when I went to the dentist, they're like, yeah, I'm surprised that you haven't come in sooner. That this is incredibly painful, and I'm surprised you're not crying. I'm like, well, I didn't think it was that bad. Well, it was that bad, but I didn't think it was that bad, because on the pain scale, I think it was at an 8, and then at night when I wanted to sleep, it would become a 10. And it was coming to the point where I wasn't eating, I couldn't sleep, and I lost 20 pounds just from that alone. But I have gained it back because of Christmas and stuff. I had a shitty week, okay? And it leads me to where I am now. But yeah, sorry, I had to finish my lips because I can't talk while I do lipstick. But yeah, this is essentially what has gone on the last 3 months. And I don't know if I'm going to go back to posting regularly once a week or something. I'm still kind of healing. I'm just letting you know that I want to tell what happened. Also, this is kind of just a way for me to cope, because I feel like now because I have somebody to talk to. But I wanted to let you know what happened. I'm not okay, but I'm doing more okay now, if that makes sense. I don't know. I feel like right now I'm just numb. I have my moments, but a lot of craziness has happened the last couple months. And I just thought I should let you guys know. If you stuck around this long, because I know this is a very, very long video, thank you. If you like it, I hope you do. I don't know if I should be yeah, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm just going to say, have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.